Alright, so in this video we're going to be putting on the new distributor, doing the distributor wiring and the ECU wiring, and that's pretty much all we're going to be able to cover today in this video because it's a little bit long and a little bit complicated, but I think after I show you it'll be fairly easy for you to do. Alright, so let's get to it. So to remove this bracket right here, there's just two 12mm bolts that go in the back of the block, and they should be pretty easy to remove. You might need a breaker bar just to break them loose, and then the rest of it you can get by hand or with a ratchet. And it's out. So that's all it is, just this little bracket right here, and you had to remove the two bolts from there, and those are the two bolts. Alright, so this next part is going to be the distributor wiring, and this can get a little bit tricky, so I'm just going to put a disclaimer right here that I am not responsible for anything that you may try to do. If you try to attempt this swap at home and you screw something up, I'm not liable for any of that, so I just want to let you know that, because I don't have the money to be liable for that, or the time. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm going to do this the way I think this should be done, and you can try to follow along, and let's get right to it. So I'm just going to pop this off here, and you can move these plug wires out of the way too, it doesn't really matter. I might take them off in a little bit just to get them out of the way. But what we're going to have to do is get our plug from the SI harness, and that's actually just going to clip, well, we're going to transfer all these wires onto that, and then it's going to clip right into our new distributor. Well, it's not new, but it's going to be new to the car. And then we'll be done for that, and we'll just add two more wires in for, I believe it's the crank position sensor, and one other sensor, I forgot what it's called. And then we'll run those two wires down to the ECU. This we don't have to really worry about because we're just done. It's gonna go. It's not even gonna be on the car anymore. This whole distributor is gonna be gone. We have another distributor. So we just need to worry about these wires and depin them the correct way, and then put them on to the new piece. Right. Alright, so as you can see, I already switched over the distributor plug. These are the two extra wires that will need to be run to the ECU right here. I did not film it because that whole process took just way too long, and it would have been ridiculous. It would have been an absurd amount of footage for nothing. There is a pinout though, like a pinout sheet that I will try and link in the description or set up some way so you guys can see it, but if not, this is basically what it is. Try and hold that as still as possible so you can pause it and take a screenshot of it. But if you can get a good picture of that or whatever, I'll just put a link in the description, so that way you guys can do this at home, because it's not that hard. Once you look at that and how it's actually supposed to go down, it's not hard at all. And you could easily get it done in about a night, which is what I'm going to try and strive for. One night, MPFI swap, done. That's what this part is going to be. So now all we're left to do is remove the distributor, get the new distributor and put it on. So I removed the spark plugs, and the next thing I have to do is just pop off this other cap. And some of you might be wondering what the heck this green wire is right here, and that's actually my RPM wire. So I know that's kind of ghetto, but I'm gonna rewire it the right way when I put this new distributor on. I didn't feel like doing it when I had the DPFI set up, so I'm just gonna take the time and do it now while I'm doing this setup, so that way it's just a whole lot cleaner. And I'll try and run it through the loom. If not, I'll at least wrap it all the way and put it in to the connector the right way, or at least what I think should be the right way. So to get this distributor off, there's actually 3 bolts, one here, here, and on the back side over here, and you need to take those off with a wrench because you can't really get to them with the ratchet. So when you're reinstalling this, you want to make sure on the inside there that these little guides line up. And there's even, if you look on the old one compared to the new one, so something else that I didn't film when I was doing all the depinning for the distributor was I took the wires out of the old distributor or the plug wires out, and I put them onto the new one. And you want to make sure that whatever plug wire came out of here goes exactly in this spot when you go onto the car. So this one goes here on that, this one goes here on that, this one goes here on that, and etc. So you want to do that, make sure they're all right, and then I actually wrote on mine to know where they go back into. That's number 1. Number 2 is all the way over here. They all go back in there, and that's how I did that. Alright, so I've just finished putting in the plug wires, and I connected the clip in for the new distributor. The last thing I have to do is run these 2 wires to the ECU, and I believe it will be C1 and C2. I have to go look at the diagram again, but I'm pretty sure that's what they are. So I'm going to head to bed now though, because it's getting pretty late. I'll finish this up in the morning, and yeah, hopefully I'll have a video for you guys by Saturday, or maybe even late Thursday. Alright, so it's the next morning, and we're going to try and get the rest of this done today. All that's left is some ECU wiring and a little bit of engine bay wiring, and we can put the manifold in. So what we're going to be working with is this wire that I ran through the firewall to connect to the injector resistor box. I already ran this through the firewall, and I don't need to do it now. It's already done. So we're just going to go straight to inside the car. And if you need to know how to get that through the firewall, there's a rubber, it looks almost like a rubber hose, but it's right under the fuel filter. And you just cut it open with the razor blade, shove it in there, and you'll be good to go. You want to get inside your car and you need to get to the ECU. So what you have to do is you got to take this carpet and rip it back. And I've already gotten to my ECU before because I had to run those wires back here, and actually this is where you will run those wires. It's through a spot right above the ECU. And you may have to do some cutting to find that spot, and you'll just cut through some of that foam stuff that's back there. And yeah, what you'll have normally is you'll have a kick plate before the ECU, and you'll want to remove the kick plate, and then you can get to the ECU, pull that out, and then you can look at your wires and see what you need to switch around. Alright, so after removing your 4 bolts around the ECU, you're going to want to just pull it out. Just grab it, pull it out like that. And then the important part that we're going to need to get to is these 3 plugs right here that connect to the back of the ECU. And yeah. So we'll need to pop all these out. And now you can take this ECU, and you don't really need it anymore. So if you wanted to, you could just throw it away or sell it if yours is still good. This is still good, so I'll probably just keep this and try and sell it on eBay or something for like 10-20 bucks. It's just for a DPFI setup, so they're not really that expensive. And now you can take this ECU, and you don't really need it anymore. So if you wanted to, you could just throw it away or sell it if yours is still good. This is still good, so I'll probably just keep this and try and sell it on eBay or something for like 10-20 bucks. It's just for a DPFI setup, so they're not really that expensive. Alright, so this next part can be kind of confusing if you don't know exactly what you're doing. So what you have here is you have connectors A, B, and C, and you need to do some depinning on these so that way you can put in the wires for your injectors, and 2 other wires are going to come from the firewall into here. Those were those other 2 wires we had hanging off the distributor, and those are going to go to connector C right here, and that's going to help give us our crank sensors. If you don't have any tools for depinning any of these pins or connectors or whatever, I would highly recommend getting a set of these and using the smallest flathead screwdriver that you can get, and using that to just depin everything. But so far this has been working pretty good, and I haven't had any problems with it, and it's pretty fast. So you need to cut this stuff back right here. You can use a razor blade or some wire cutters to cut this insulation stuff back, or this, whatever this is. You just gotta pull it back. Alright, so now that you got all the electrical tape and whatever else covering up these wires, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to depin them like this. So what you have to do on these is, on these little plugs right here, there's a small plastic piece. This little plastic piece right here. Let's see if I can get that in focus. You're going to want to take this out, and these just sit right here on the top, and they're on both sides, so, well, they're on the top and on the bottom of the plug, so you need to remove both. And then you're going to take your little screwdriver, and you're going to look at it there's 3 rows. If you look at it really closely, there's 3 rows of holes. The top row is going to be for your pins, and the bottom row is going to be for your pins, and then the middle row is where you're going to take your screwdriver and shove it in. And you're going to shove it in, and then say you want to take the top one out, which is this orange one, you're going to tilt it up and shove it in all the way as far as it can go, and it's going to push this pin out, and then you're going to pull your screwdriver out, pop the pin out all the way. So I need to take out the C2 pin, so I'm going to shove it in, angle it down. So now what we need to do is we need to move the orange wire that we just depinned and the white wire that we just depinned to connector B, which is that one. And we need to, let's see, we need to move the C1, which is the orange wire, to B10, and C2 wire, which is the white one, to B12. And I do have a write-up for that, which is here. I'll try and put a link in the description, or I'll just try and put the picture in the video at the end, and maybe you guys can screenshot it or something. I don't know yet. But that's what we're going to do. So you do have to pop off that plastic piece again. It should just be pretty simple to slide right in. Next thing we'll have to do is get some other pins and put them in there. But let's focus on the fuel right now. Alright, so right here we've got connector A, and we actually need to depin, or not depin, but cut these 2 yellow wires and these 2 red wires right here, and those are going to be for your fuel injectors. So we got to take these guys and get them just dealing with these wires right now, just those. And what I did, all I had was black and red wire, so what I'm doing is I took, I can't even see that, took electrical tape of the color that the wire needed to be, and I wrapped it around the end of each wire. So like this black wire has a red wrap of electrical tape, so that's going to be the red wire. This blue one, obviously blue. Yellow one's going to be yellow. There should be a white one because I didn't have a yellow with a black stripe. That's going to be the A15 wire, and I forgot exactly where that goes on here, somewhere on this side, but we will get to that in a little bit. Alright, so what we got to do to get all this to work is, and wire up all the injectors, we need to take these 4 wires and go back as far up as we can go and cut them, so we got some room to work with. So I'm actually just going to follow these up, make sure I got the right ones. These are in fact the right ones. Take some wire cutters, just chomp on those. pull those out. Then we're going to do the same with the next two. Do what you have in the engine bay. This will go right to your injector resistor box. That's that crazy wire that I had just dangling in the engine bay. Alright, so after you strip all the wires, there was one wire I forgot to mention, which was the A15 wire. It's a black, or it's a yellow with a black stripe and silver dots. You do need to cut that one too and strip it. So now this is a little bit easier of a part to do. All you're doing is matching up the wires from your injector resistor box to the wires here on the ECU plug. And what I did was I didn't have the right color wires, so I marked them. This one I didn't have brown tape, so I just marked it with green. I did have a brown wire, but it wasn't long enough to come all the way to here. But the brown wire is supposed to go to A1, which is this first one right here. So for now, I'm just going to wrap these together. And later on I will solder these, so don't freak out about that. Just doing this to get this on the car to show people how to do this. Alright, so that one's in. So the next one we gotta do is red. And we'll just wait for my Instagram to finish blowing up. Okay, it's done. Alright, so the next wire is the A3 wire, and that's got to be a red wire, but we're connecting it to here. So the red wire, I marked it with red tape. We're just putting those, twisting those together. Alright, the next wire is a blue wire. Again, I didn't have blue wire, but I had blue tape. So I marked it with some blue tape. And that one will go to A5, which is the next wire in the row. I'm just twisting these together just for now to hold. Alright, and the last wire is the A7 wire, which is the yellow wire. That'll go to here. And then the only wire we have left is the A15 wire, and that I didn't have a yellow with a black stripe, so I just put it on a black wire and I did white tape and I marked it up at top so I'd know. So now I can just twist these last ones together. And for the most part, that's the last thing we have to do for fuel. Alright. the other thing we have to do is earlier we took out C1 and C2 from this plug right here, and we put those into plug B right here. So what we got to do is run some wires through the firewall. Alright, so after I taped up all that other stuff and got it soldered for now, what you need to do is you need to run the extra two distributor plug wires to the ECU. So the best way to get it through the firewall is to cut open that rubber piece like I mentioned earlier, and then take whatever wires you have, tape them up so that way they don't get dirty when you shove it through, and then tape a pen or a pencil or like a little rod or something that you can just shove in there, and then feed it through, and then come under here and then pull it out, and that's the quickest and easiest way to get wires through the firewall without having to slowly feed them through wire by wire. And boom. 2 wires, good to go, ready to be plugged in. The only problem with this is these will not plug into the ECU, so I do need to go over to the junkyard and grab some ECU pins, because these are distributor wire pins and these will not work. So maybe I should put that in the beginning. You need to get some ECU pins, because I forgot to do that. And today's Thanksgiving, so I'll have to go tomorrow. Alright, so the next part of this process is those 2 wires that you ran through. You need to hook them up to C1 and C2. And let's check what that thing is. So at pins C1, okay, so C1, you're going to run a blue-green wire, blue wire with the green stripe, and at C2 you'll run a blue wire with a yellow stripe. And because I didn't have any of the same color wire again, I just remembered it. I had this black wire with the yellow stripe, so the yellow stripe is going to be the blue one with the yellow stripe, and this blue one, because I could barely see the green stripe, it just looked like a blue wire to me. So the blue wire, this will be the blue wire with the green stripe. And you just want to wire this one up to C2 and this one up to C1. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, so once you get all your wires connected to the plugs, it's time to hook up your ECU to all those plugs. And you're going to need, if you're just doing a straight MPFI swap over, you're going to need a PM6 ECU. I don't know if you can see that, probably won't focus on it. There it is. You're going to need a PM6 ECU to run this. If you're going to say OBDO, if you're going to run OBD1, then you're going to need a conversion harness and a couple other things. And you won't need the injector resistor box. So it's a little bit different of a process than this. So you'll just hook all these up.